Welcome to Pinnacle's NFL Best Bets. I'm Anthony Bruno, joined by Scott Cullen on behalf of Pinnacle. NFL Week 1 already underway. It was a thrilling opening game between the Chiefs and the Ravens. I was on the Chiefs to cover the spread, so I'm happy today. But we are going to take you through the rest of the Week 1 slate, go through a couple of our best bets, and we're going to be joining you every week throughout the season here on Pinnacle to guide you through every slate of the NFL season. So, Scott, let's not waste any time, man. Let us know your first best bet on the Week 1 slate.
You know, my first best bet, there's been a lot of talk about how much better the Arizona Cardinals should be this year. They got a healthy Kyler Murray. They got Marvin Harrison Jr., who looks like he could be, an impact player right off the bat. And yet, I'm taking the Buffalo Bills -6 at home against the Cardinals, because as much as I believe that the Cardinals probably are going to be better offensively, and you might have questions about the Bills, what their receivers are going to look like with no Stephon Diggs, no Gabe Davis, but I have a lot of faith in Josh Allen. And particularly going against an Arizona team that is terrible defensively. They gave up like 5.7 yards per play last year, one of the worst marks in the league, and I don't see that changing based on their personnel. And so I still think, you can believe that the Cardinals are going to be improved this year. I don't think they're going to be able to hang with the Bills in the season opener. So I'm going with the Bills -6.
Nice. I know some people think the Bills are going to take a step back, but I'm kind of right there with you. I think this is still a very good football team, and I know they lost some skilled players, but in Josh Allen, we trust.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you, man. My first best bet is going to be the Cleveland Browns -2.5 at -110 at home against the Dallas Cowboys. Listen, this comes down to the Browns and how good they are in the trenches. And I know the Cowboys are very good in the trenches as well, but the Browns have one of the best offensive lines, one of the best defensive lines in football. They went 8-1 at home last season, and it didn't matter who was in at QB. Okay, whether it was Deshaun Watson, PJ Walker, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Joe Flacco, they were just winning games at home. And most of it was because of the strength of their defense. Like Myles Garrett was an absolute monster last season. I think the Browns are once again going to have a great defense. And then with the Dallas Cowboys, this is more about me just not believing in the Cowboys on the road. They went 4-5 on the road last season, and those 4 wins, came against the Giants, Chargers, Panthers, and Commanders, 4 of the 7 worst teams in football. So I just do not have a lot of faith in this Cowboys team on the road. I think it's going to be a slugfest. I think it's going to be a tough game. I also like the under in this game as well. I think both teams are going to be able to get to the quarterback, but I like the Browns to squeak out a win here and cover the spread.
Yeah, and if you've seen my article that I wrote on Pinnacle.com, I took the Cowboys. So I'm obviously not in agreement, but I can agree with your rationale there. It's just that I am so out on Deshaun Watson that I guess maybe I'm okay with regular season Dak Prescott. That he played great during the regular season last year, and I think that that's going to be what gives them the edge. But all the points you make about the Browns defense, that could very well be what determines the game.
I will admit though, Scott, like Deshaun Watson scares the crap out of me. Like I don't know what Deshaun Watson is going to show up, but like I said, it almost didn't matter who was in at quarterback when his team played at home last season. So yeah. I'm hoping that Myles Garrett and those boys on the defense can carry me to a win here in this spot. But let's move along here. What's your next best bet on the Week 1 slate?
My next best bet is a player prop. I'm going with Aaron Jones over. It's now 54.5 rushing yards. It started at 51.5 rushing yards, so I obviously liked it then at 51.5. But Aaron Jones over 54.5 rushing yards against the New York Giants. And Jones finished last season in Green Bay, had 5 straight 100-yard games, including playoffs, and the Giants defense allowed 4.7 yards per carry last season. I also think that the Vikings should be inclined to use Jones quite a bit. Maybe I have a lack of faith in Sam Darnold. That yes, they're probably going to try and get the ball downfield to Jefferson, but I think if you want to ease the pressure on Sam Darnold, you get Aaron Jones involved in the running game, and So I like him to get well over 55 yards.
Yeah, you know what? Like Kevin O'Connell, I mean, he's just a great offensive mind, and I feel like he's just going to figure out, even though like the Kirk Cousins era is over, Sam Darnold's in here now, Aaron Jones coming over from the Packers. I think now they're not a great team, obviously Minnesota, but I think offensively, as long as Kevin O'Connell is calling the shots over there, I have faith in that team offensively. So I do like the play, Scott. I have a player prop as well. There's actually a couple player props. So it is the Sunday night game, Rams and Lions, and it's all about Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I like a couple of his props. First, I'll start with the anytime touchdown prop because as of recording, Pinnacle has the best price in market on an anytime touchdown prop for Amon-Ra St. Brown at plus 105. If you look at other books, whether it's Bet365, FanDuel, you'll see it around minus 115, minus 110. There's a couple books that have him at minus 150 to find the end zone. But this game is the highest total on the slate right now at 52. The Lions team total 27.5. So there should be a lot of points scored in this game. Yeah. Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously coming off a breakout season. He scored 10 touchdowns in 2023. He had 23 red zone targets last year, the fifth most in the NFL. He also had the fifth most targets overall. He's obviously a big part of what this team does offensively. And the Lions, kind of like what I was saying about the Cleveland Browns, they are excellent in the trenches. They have one of the best offensive lines in football. Jared Goff, we know the narrative of how good he is in the dome. So I think they're going to have a lot of time to throw the ball here. Obviously, on the other side of the ball as well, Aaron Donald is no longer with the LA Rams. So I think they're going to have a little bit more trouble getting to the quarterback, especially going up against this amazing Lions offensive line. So I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be heavily involved. And because Pinnacle has the best price in market, giddy up.
Yeah.
Let's hope he finds the end zone. And his other prop, listen, I know it's kind of high, but over 85.5 receiving yards at minus 109. So Amon-Ra actually went over this total in 13 of 19 games last season, including the playoffs. And I think he's going to do it again. And actually, when the Lions faced the Rams in the playoffs last year, he had 7 catches for 110 yards. So like I said, I think the Lions are going to be able to throw the ball all over the field. I think Amon-Ra is going to be heavily involved. So yeah, I hope there's going to be some fireworks in this game.
Yeah, and look, the Lions are one of the teams on the rise this year that, they kind of broke through last season, and now the question is, are they a real Super Bowl team? And so you can expect St. Brown to be a huge part of that. And yeah, like you say, there's a chance that this is a pretty good matchup against the Rams. Lots of support for your picks there.
Yeah, even Sam Laporta, I'll just throw him in as well. Pinnacle has one of the best prices on him to score a touchdown as well. One of the best tight ends in the league. So yeah, and listen, whether you're betting this game, any game across the slate, you have to check Pinnacle Sportsbook because chances are we are going to have the best odds on something across the slate. I mean, it's blatantly obvious. If you use an app like BetStamp, for example, and you kind of just look at the odds across the board, Pinnacle's going to stand out. Every slate, every week is having the best odds. So, but yeah, Scott, let's move on now to our NFL futures. Speaking of Super Bowl teams, who is a team that you like in the futures market to hoist the Lombardi Trophy?
Yeah, and I say this with the idea that obviously the Kansas City Chiefs are, as they're attempting to be the first team ever to win 3 straight Super Bowls, and they're the deserving favorites. But maybe as the deserving favorites, they don't offer you a great deal of value because they've established what they are and people know. And they won a Super Bowl last year when they really, probably weren't the best team. They just, they happen to have the best quarterback of our era now, and sometimes he can pull it out. And so, if you're looking for value, I think you have to look further down the board because, as we've seen at Pinnacle, the odds have gotten tighter for the teams that are at the top. And so, if you're looking for value, like I would consider. If you're going to go for a long shot, like a team like the Rams is at least worth considering. They're almost 36-1 on Pinnacle, and it's not as though you can look at the Rams and go, oh, yes, they definitely should win the Super Bowl, but they have a team that has potential to to be pretty good. That if Puka Nacua is healthy, I mean, he had trouble staying healthy in training camp, but if he's healthy and Cooper Kupp is healthy and Stafford is winging the ball around, that they're going to have a chance to do some damage, and at longer odds, they're at least worth a look, and that's kind of how I'm approaching the futures market now, because when I wrote on Pinnacle's betting resources about futures odds 3 weeks ago, you could find much better prices on the top teams, and it's just happened that over the course of training camp and as the season approaches, everybody's opinions get a lot stronger about how much they like the top teams, and so you start to lose value there as the season gets closer.
I love it. Scott coming out firing, offering the Rams at 36-1. I love it, Scott. I love it, man. Listen, I'm going to stay on what I was just talking about with the Lions. Now, listen, I don't love their number at 12-1, and the market has just become more efficient across the board, obviously, as the summer has gone on. The Lions right now shade over 12-1, but when I look at those teams outside of those, elite teams like, we just talked about Kansas City and San Francisco and Baltimore, kind of in that next tier. Yeah. I do like the Lions. And again, it's because of how good they are in the trenches. Like when you think of teams that win the Super Bowl, great offensive lines, great defensive lines. Now, listen, do I think Jared Goff is a Super Bowl winning quarterback? Not necessarily. Listen, he's played in a Super Bowl before. I mean, he's a good quarterback. I think Jared Goff kind of gets a bad rap. And I think he's a lot better than kind of people perceive him to be. And listen, I don't love the number, but I think it's a decent play at 12-1. Again, when you look at how good they are in the trenches, their skill position players, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta. Now, do I trust Dan Campbell? That's another guy. Now I'm just making all of these points to go against the Lions. But listen, the NFC is not the strongest conference, as we all know. Yep. So there's no reason that the Lions can't make another deep run, and I think they have a decent chance to actually win the Super Bowl this year.
And to the point on Goff, the thing is, there are a lot of very good quarterbacks in the NFL. Problem is, they all pale in comparison to Mahomes. And so that's kind of who you have to climb up against is, Jared Goff, very good quarterback, is going to put up great numbers. And, if he ends up going against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, how are you feeling? Well, maybe not great, but maybe he doesn't end up facing Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, right? Somebody can knock off the Chiefs, and then you maybe feel better about Jared Goff's Super Bowl matchup. So that's kind of how I look at that, is that, we have all these guys that haven't won Super Bowls yet, and it's very easy to dismiss them as having, they can't win. But everybody hasn't won a Super Bowl until they have. And then when you're, as you said, when you're comparing quarterbacks to Patrick Mahomes, like it's just never going to feel right. And again, it's mostly because I just think the AFC is an absolute gauntlet. So when you're looking at these teams in the NFC, the Lions obviously kind of stand out. So yeah, I mean, I love it, man. You have the Rams, I have the Lions. I mean, the Chiefs are probably just going to three-peat. That's probably what's going to happen at the end of the day. But that's going to do it for our Week 1 best bets here on Pinnacle. So thank you if you watched all the way through. Best of luck with your Week 1 bets. And as I said, listen, you have to check out Pinnacle, because when you're looking across the board every week, every slate, chances are Pinnacle is going to have the best odds on something that you're betting on, whether it's main markets or player props. But we're looking forward to joining you throughout the NFL season. Until next time, bet smart, bet Pinnacle, and enjoy Week 1 of the NFL season.